Let's go to Tel Aviv, where we find lead world news presenter for Sky News, Yalda Hakim. Yalda, you were there in Hostage Square. How are Israelis marking this somber 2-year anniversary?
In exactly that way. Good morning, and as you say, it's afternoon here in Tel Aviv, and I'm in Hostage Square, and there is a somber tone and mood here. I'm surrounded by the hostage families. They have become one big extended family. They've shared in the grief of the last 2 years, and as you say, it's difficult to believe so much has happened in the region over the course of the last 2 years, and for these families, all they have wanted, they've had hope against hope that their loved ones would finally come home. But that fateful day 2 years ago, we saw 1,200 people killed by Hamas. We saw 251 hostages taken into Gaza. We know that there is now roughly 48 of those hostages who remain, and as part of that deal will hopefully be able to come home. 20 of them remain alive. But I just want to show you what's happening here behind me, because it is starting to fill up here in Hostage Square. The events will take place this evening. And just behind me, you can probably see that number, 731. That marks the number of days since this horrific incident took place. I spoke to one of the fathers of a hostage, and he had this on his chest last night. And I said, what is the number? And he said, that is the number of days since I last spoke to my son. Now, it's believed that his son was killed in Gaza. He's not alive. But he says that until I don't see the remains, I don't want to believe that my son is dead. But this is a nation still dealing with its trauma, its grief. And of course, the war in Gaza rages on, where we've seen 67,000 people, Palestinians, killed. So there is hope now that finally what happens in Egypt over the course of the next few days will mean the hostages will come home and there will be an end to this war.
Yalda, let's talk about those talks in Cairo right now and those hopes that the war could come to an end. How are they proceeding, and where is the common ground? Is Hamas willing to listen to some of these 20 points of peace, as the deal makers are calling it?
You know, I've heard so many times, is the deal perfect? No. Is it a deal that feels more concrete than we've seen at any other point over the last 2 years? Yes. Is there a gap between the details and implementation? There is. But right now, what we're seeing is the two sides, both sides, senior members of both sides in Egypt, not necessarily talking directly. It is this weird situation where they'll be in separate rooms, and intermediaries will be moving and shuttling between them in sort of a shuttle diplomacy to try and iron out some of those details. And what I was also told was both sides, whether it was the Israeli government under Benjamin Netanyahu or Hamas, both sides said yes, but. And Donald Trump only heard yes. And the instructions that he has given to the likes of Steve Witkoff and the likes of his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is go to Egypt and don't come back till you have a deal. So this isn't a question of days or weeks, frankly, which is what we've seen in the past, and then the situation breaking down. People here in Israel are optimistic, more optimistic than I have seen them at any other point of this war. And of course, the bombs haven't necessarily stopped in the Gaza Strip and around the north of Gaza. But there is this moment where we are seeing some kind of hope here that finally those who were taken from here will be able to come home. Finally, the onslaught that we've seen in Gaza will be able to come to an end. But then the big question, okay, if we see the hostages come home and if we see a ceasefire and then we see aid trickling into Gaza, the next part of that is the future of this region. And again, I've heard so many people here say to me, we just want peace. We want to be able to live side by side. You know, I had one father say to me last night, we're all the children of God. We don't want hate for the other side. We want to somehow find a solution to this, and it will now be up to those who are sitting in Egypt to try and come to some kind of solution. It will be difficult, and we have seen things in the past collapse. So the pressure really is on, and Donald Trump is waiting for them to get this over the line.
lead world news presenter for Sky News, Yalda Hakim, live from Tel Aviv. Yalda, thank you.